What is going on, Bachelor Nation? We are talking all about what went down in Paradise. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh my gosh, I am speechless. So basically, over the last week, we have been getting all of these different stories about an incident that went down in Paradise, and we couldn't take it anymore. We needed to sit down and talk about it. So here we are. I've got my girl, Kristina.
Hey everybody, I'm Kristina Zias. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is, I feel like, the biggest deal, since the election, honestly. That's how I feel. But honestly, this drama has been kind of came out of nowhere. Everyone was so excited about Bachelor in Paradise. You saw all the cast that was going to be there, and then one day into filming and all this happened.
It's insane, and I feel like we've never experienced something like this in any of the franchises where they had to shut down filming because of an incident.
No, we haven't experienced any of this, and that's why I think it's so alarming and that something so serious did happen.
I completely agree. So basically, we're going to go over the facts of what we know for certain, because there's a lot of he said, she said in this story. But what we know for certain is that Corinne and Demario were in a pool, something went down, and because of that incident, they shut down filming.
Right, but it's more than just that. So we don't exactly know what happened because, like you said, Renee, it is all he said, she said. But there was a producer who went to Warner Brothers and claimed that there was misconduct, and that's how this whole investigation started.
Yes, which is insane to me, because for someone to get so uncomfortable, okay, it's on a show where it's literally about hooking up, getting drunk, having fun on an island. So I completely believe that something serious and something that made someone so uncomfortable went down for them to report this, because this doesn't just happen. And there's a lot of speculation of oh, the producer that supposedly reported it was a friend of Corinne, but I don't think, because it doesn't matter. When that's your job, you don't just report something because you don't want to embarrass your friend.
Well, but it's not just that. Just today, we learned that a second producer came forward and that they also, admitted that there was misconduct on set. So, I mean, for one producer to come along and say this, but now for someone else to say it as well, too, clearly something went down. So let's break down what we know, okay? As far as we know, what happened was Corinne and Demario were hooking up. Apparently, she straddled him. They were hanging out by the bar, and then she was like, let's go to the pool. So then they were making out, hooking up in the pool, and then that's where it all gets kind of blurry, because they're saying, gosh, I feel so raw talking about this, but they were saying that there was an intercourse, but we don't know at all. But Corinne is saying that she was too drunk to consent to anything.
Yes, but what she was also saying, or at least what we've heard, this has not been a direct quote that we've gotten. We've had one, I believe, quote directly from Corinne, not mentioning Demario. However, when we originally heard about it, it was saying that Corinne wasn't blaming him or didn't blame him. It was mostly blaming production. So it does seem that they were both very drunk. But she did not think she was not able to give consent, and she completely blames production, which I agree with. I like to compare it to when you work at a bar, and you have to cut someone off when they get drunk, when they're intoxicated.
That's a very good comparison.
When that person goes home and gets into a car accident, it is partially the bar's responsibility. Actually, the bar is supposed to call them a cab. It's supposed to do everything in their power to make sure that person gets home safely. The same should go for especially a show that's all about drinking and having fun in paradise and hookups. You need to be on top of that production, because if someone's not able to give consent, that is your job to stop it.
So I think that this is where people are really struggling, and this is where the fine line is, because it is all he said, she said, right? So people are saying that Corinne seemed fine in the pool, that she was giving consent. I know a contestant came out today, I don't have the direct quote, but a contestant said that she walks by the pool, she interacted with Demario and Corinne, and she was saying there should be footage of this because the camera was following me. And during that time, Corinne seemed absolutely fine. So it wasn't until the next morning, and if you notice that when you do read the reports, nothing was shut down right away. It's because this producer who did file for misconduct did it the next morning, when apparently she found out that Corinne had no idea about what happened the night before.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I feel like if they have this all on footage, would it have turned into such a big thing if they did not have anything that they feel somewhat guilty or wanting to hide, or something that they actually have to investigate in that footage? Like, they shut down production completely. They canceled this season due to whatever's on this footage from a report. Like, if there was nothing on there, one, I don't think Corinne would be able to make up anything if clearly on here she's fine, she's talking to people, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Obviously, we haven't seen the footage, but that's what they're using, I would think, in this case.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that obviously something seriously went wrong.
Yeah.
You don't just shut down a whole production. I mean, everyone is talking about Bachelor in Paradise. Everyone wants to see it. This is, I think ABC is like their longest running franchise, right? Mm-hmm. You don't just shut it down for a drunken hookup at the pool.
No.
Which happens year after year. I mean, look at what happened last year in Bachelor in Paradise, right? Chad was going crazy. Lace was going crazy. People are drunk, hitting each other, hooking up. You know, things have gotten violent before. Things don't get shut down. So clearly something really went wrong here. And I think the issue is who's to blame, right?
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate because I personally don't think Corinne is to blame. I mean, maybe she did get too drunk. And maybe all this wouldn't have happened, but the show is feeding them alcohol, and that's what the whole premise is about. And you can't necessarily control that. I guess people will say that you can, and this is why I've had such an issue with it, is because I feel like Corinne is being slut-shamed all over the place, which I just don't think is appropriate or fair because no one really knows the whole story. So I don't think she's to blame. However, I don't think Demario is to blame either.
I don't think so.
So I think they're both victims in this situation, and I 100% think production's to blame, but you know, in all fairness, when they sign contracts to go on the show, they're pretty much signing, I feel like, their lives away.
I know.
They're signing all their rights away.
I completely agree with you, especially on the slut shaming. The videos I've been seeing just on YouTube, they're always introing with clips of Corinne straddling Nick from like last season and kind of making her out to be this, oh, well, she would do this anyway. She's now just embarrassed. Like, if someone is making these kinds of accusations, if a set is being closed down, do you know how many, like, there are millions of dollars they're losing because of this? And if it was, and I agree, if it was down to a drunken hookup that maybe Corinne didn't want on camera, I think so much happens that we don't know about, that if she truly did not want that on there and it came down to shutting down production or getting rid of that clip, they would have gotten rid of that clip. Like, that wouldn't have been the issue. But because she was taken advantage of by, I think, honestly, comes down to production. When someone's sitting there filming you, knowing that you're not able to give consent, it's your responsibility to step in, regardless of that being a good scene.
Should we go through this?
Yeah.
So, couldn't agree more with that. And we're going to get into some quotes of, like, obviously this is he said, she said, but let's kind of break it down a little bit further and talk about what they're actually saying.
Okay, so we have two different sides, well, many different sides, but when it comes down to it, there's one side that's kind of on the more Demario production side, saying she was fine, she was just embarrassed. Someone was saying she was only a little tipsy and everything was consensual. It wasn't until her producer/friend said it would make her look bad because she had another show coming up after Paradise. She was going to do Paradise and then get her own spin-off, and then that's when she pretended not to remember anything. The reason why I don't believe this is because making these kinds of accusations and suing ABC, that's not going to get her the show. If that was the case, they would have found a way to delete that clip, not to shut down production. And then another, and this is the scarier one. So this is kind of on the extreme other side, and if this happened, this one's a little, a lot. But okay, so another source claims to have witnessed this, and this is a quote. Before long, she seemed to go limp and was sliding underwater. Demario kept trying to hold her up, and at the same time, he appeared to be having intercourse with her. After he finished, which only lasted a few seconds, he lifted her out of the water and laid her on the cement, where he proceeded to have oral sex with her. She appeared to be unconscious. At that point, some of the crew came out and carried her off to her room. She was limp and seemed unable to walk on her own. If that happened, that is terrifying.
So, I mean, this sounds awful to say, but I honestly believe something like that happened, because otherwise, why would you shut down? First of all, this is a girl who is not very shy, okay? Last season, on Nick's season, she was like, my heart is gold, but my vagine is platinum. Like, she was hooking up, she was topless, and I just don't think that she gets shy very easily. I think she knows how to have fun and kind of wants to portray herself in a certain way.
Yeah.
So I don't think that she would be embarrassed by a drunken hookup.
I completely agree. And I think people are taking, though, kind of her being more free and comfortable with her sexuality as an opportunity to slut shame her and try to say, oh no, she wanted this. Let me lesson. If someone is okay with having sex yesterday with a certain person, does not mean they're going to be okay having sex with that same person the next day or a different person. It's not, that's what I can't stand. People make it seem like just because she was sexual with Nick means that she was completely okay with any sexual situation after that with anyone else because of her personality. That's not the case. And Corinne came out with this quote saying, I am a victim and have spent the last week trying to make sense of what happened the night of June 4th. Although I have little memory of that night, something bad obviously took place, which I understand is why production of the show has now been suspended and a producer on the show has filed a complaint against the production. As a woman, this is my worst nightmare and it has now become my reality.
Okay, so I think that this is why people find it so hard to swallow and kind of aren't on Corinne's side, and it breaks my heart. But they're saying, I don't know if this was in the exact quote, but she's saying that she's seeking therapy and everything too, right? So I think for them to see her on Nick's season and be so open and free, like we just said, and then to hear her say this, it sounds like two different Corinnes. So I get why Bachelor Nation and just kind of America and people in general aren't on her side.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. If the whole world all of a sudden thinks you were raped, that's awful. And I don't think that's the case. And I feel bad saying that, but it's just, I think that we really need to see exactly what happened to know who was wrong, who was right. And I don't think that necessarily there are, wrongs or right in the situation.
I think it's a very gray area. I think that's what makes it so kind of confusing for everyone because it wasn't just two people involved. It was a whole production team watching it. It's on national television. It is a bigger case, a case that doesn't happen every day. But what I do agree with just is Corinne's attorney, Marty Singer, tells TMZ, if nothing inappropriate happened, why did production get shut down? Something serious clearly happened. And I think at the end of the day, that is what we need to be paying attention to. The fact that this show halted because something did happen, something that wasn't right. Just because we don't have an exact person to blame does not mean something bad didn't go down. And I don't think Corinne would come out saying this if she didn't believe it. Just because of a drunken hookup that she was ashamed of,
Absolutely. And so it's interesting because obviously she lawyered up. Demario also lawyered up because he's saying he's been slandered all over the place. And I mean, he's had a rough couple weeks because everything that happened on Rachel's season of The Bachelorette and now this, it's not been a good month for Demario. Let's just say that. So I think it's really interesting to see what happens. Obviously, they're both blaming ABC, they're blaming Warner Brothers, they're blaming production. But I don't really know if they'll be able to get anything out of this.
Yeah, I honestly don't know either. I'm very curious to see what happens when this investigation stops and is figured out. I'd love to see what happens. But right now, to me, what it seems like they're doing is trying to find a way to save their franchise. Because if something like this did happen, would they be able to continue Bachelor in Paradise for future seasons? What protocols would they have to make? What people would they have to fire? What would change for them to survive something like this?
So do you think there's no chance Bachelor in Paradise is coming back for this season?
For this season, no. 100%
that breaks my
no.
heart. I really wanted to watch it. And I think everyone did too.
Oh, yeah. I think that's another reason people are so if it was just this, can we get back to filming? Everyone's come on, it's my favorite show of the summer. What's happening? But guys, I think everyone feels that way. But until they resolve this, which will hopefully be soon, and I hope we all get our answers as opposed to just this he said, she said nonsense, then we can see what our next step is. But if it does come down to it's a matter of ABC needing to change a lot of things, do you think that they could continue doing Bachelor in Paradise if it was them at fault?
I think it really depends on what actually happened and what we find out. I mean, ABC is Disney, right? Disney doesn't want this associated with their name.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. And I think that it will come back. I'm hoping that it will. But I think it just really depends on, like we said, exactly what happened.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. But I think only time will tell with this one.
I mean, so we'll be back here on Monday night discussing the next episode of The Bachelorette. So hopefully we have more information for you guys by then. And I mean, I hope the story evolves.
I hope so too, but definitely let us know what you guys think happened. Like, keep the conversation going in the comments, tweet at us, because we want to know what you guys think happened, and along with the updates, like, we want to talk about this.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? On Instagram, on Twitter, on my my Gmail chats, everything. All my friends are like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on? So I'm talking about this all day long. So feel free to connect with us too, because we're obviously very interested in this.
Yes, please. But I think that pretty much sums it up. We will definitely let you know. We'll be talking about this on the Bachelorette After Show on Monday. So definitely tune in. But in the meantime, you guys can follow me at Renee Ariel on Instagram and on Twitter.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on my blog at Miss Zias.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.